Today we are going to take another big chunk of this pumpkin spice paper pad and turn it into some gratitude journals. Hey guys, it's Beth. Welcome. I'm still working on this pumpkin spice pad. The only full sheets I have left are ones that I have saved because they are not specifically fall themed. I mean, this one may have some colored leaves on them, but they're not like your normal fall colors, and there's a lot of floral. And then these, they're fall colors, but they're not necessarily fall specific patterns. So I wanted to do some gratitude journals. At this point, it's too late to really get them out for this year, but at least I'll have them ready to go early for next year. But I thought this would be a good pad to make one from. I think in the past I've used fall pads for gratitude journals and included some fall elements. This time I decided to try and stay away from specific fall elements and images and sayings, but just try and swing more towards the thankfulness and gratitude side. I have some little pieces I fussy cut out of some, I think it was the big 12 by 12 pattern that said pumpkin spice and everything nice. I have a few journal cards here that again are not fall specific. I think there was one that actually even talked, oh here they go, about oh so thankful. It's just pretty floral. Could really be used any time of the year, even though I know most people do the 30 days of gratitude in November, but really you could do a gratitude journal any time of year, which is why I wanted to not be so fall heavy on the content of the journal. So we are going to take these pages, these scraps, and then I may throw in some other items from my journal stash, like graph paper, vellum, drawing paper, things like that, like just different textured papers to go along with it. And then I may have to go into my second pad, because remember, I had two of these, and I was really only working on killing off one. But I've been pulling from that second pad if I needed more than two of one of the patterns. So I may see if there's any non-fall specific patterns left in that second pad that I don't already have here, just to give me more pages, because my goal is to make two journals since I have two of all these patterns. So it would be, one diagonal stripe go in one journal, one diagonal stripe go in the other journal. They're not both going to go in the same journal. We may have one full page and then some scraps in there in the same journal, but so that is my plan. Just thought I would make up some gratitude journals with you, show you my process, and get a little bit closer to getting this pad finished off. So the first thing I am going to do is trim my papers down. I am going to laminate my cover, and I'm going to use the blue gold floral paper there as my cover. And the pouches I'm using are just the standard 8.5 by 11 pouches. So you can go, I think the pouch is actually a little bit bigger than that, but my biggest size paper trimmed is the cover. So everything else that I'm trimming, I'm going probably no taller than 8.25, and then I trim each end, or I trim the width to be less than 10 unless I'm going to fold in the ends. So some of them I leave 12 inches wide, and I'm just going to fold in the ends. You'll see that later. But this is by no means a tutorial. This is just my process. I am not an experienced journal maker, but I do enjoy making them, and they are a great way to put paper to good use and use up a good amount of paper in a short amount of time. There are many tutorials out there on YouTube. Please don't take what I'm doing as always the correct way, I guess. I had some paper in my journal stash that is just fun to put in journals. There's some ledger paper. I have some vellum. And this was, I think, it still had labels on it, so it probably came from Michael's or Hobby Lobby or something like that, individual sheets of vellum that I had found. And then I have some drawing paper, some thinner paper, that's some like graph paper right there. And then I think this is the drawing paper. It's like vellum, but it's not as thick. And then just taking stock of the scraps I have, trying to get them together. I also pulled out some other items from my stash, some more journaling cards, some doilies, and then there were the cut aparts that were left from the pad. I have some vintage postcards that I think are fun to use as journal cards. There were some envelope samples that I was sent that I want to try and include. So those are just all of the goodies that I'm going to be putting in my journal. Next, I fold everything. Just most of the time I'm folding in half unless I'm going to fold in some of the edges, so you'll see that here in a little bit. Right now I'm just taking all of those extra papers that I brought in and folding them in half. And I just like to include these just for a fun change of pace. It makes for, great journaling. Like some of these make for great journaling, and some of them are just fun layers, like the vellums just make for a fun layer. So on this one, I folded the pattern to the inside. These are skinnier. They're going to be the very middle of my journal. These I'm folding so the the pattern is facing out. And now we're getting into some of the ones where I'm folding in some of the ends. I have my ruler out just so I can make sure that once I fold it in half, it is no wider than 5 inches. So when I'm folding, sometimes I fold the ends in just an inch on each side. Some I may fold in like 2 inches in. I just try to kind of mix it up. And then again, you'll also see me folding some of the patterns to the inside, some of the patterns to the outside. And I just do that so that not every page is going to look exactly the same, even though it's going to be different patterns. But all of my pages are folded, and now I'm just going to try and put them in an order that I like. I don't know if there's a right way or wrong way, or if there's any rhyme or reason to how you put your pages together. I just tend to go with what I like. I try to make sure that I mix in those extra papers and that I don't have too many patterns facing each other. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. So once I get that all put together, I'm just making sure that the height is right, and it is, except for that drawing paper. I need to trim it down just a tad. So I'm going to trim both those down. Going to score my cover, and I like to score it before I laminate it. And that just because I know that width isn't going to change, and so I tend to find the center of my paper. So however wide your paper is, you find the center, and then I tend to make my spine about 1/4 of an inch. So I would go 1/8 of an inch to either side of the center. Now I'm putting my paper in my laminating pouches and then running it through my laminator. I use this Cronova. I like it that it's small, compact, it's easy to store away. And I got it off of Amazon, so if I can find a link for it, I will include that in the description box below. And then the pouches are just your standard. I like the Scotch ones because they tend to be good quality. But I do run my cover through several times just to make sure it's, sealed as well as possible. And especially the ends, that they're nice and sealed. So I'm going to re-score. So I've already got my score lines there. I'm just re-scoring them. And the reason I score beforehand is because sometimes if you don't get your paper into the laminating pouch evenly, like with an even border, then your middle with the pouch is different from your middle with paper. I don't know. I've just learned that the hard way. So I score before I laminate, and then I re-score based on those original score lines. So it is now like 3 months later. and I'm finally getting a chance to get back in and finish my journals. I got one of those craft mats for Christmas, so that's why you now all of a sudden see the craft mat underneath my projects here. But now is the fun part, and also probably the harder part, because now my pages are all cut down. I just need to decorate them and add in a bunch of fun elements. I took some of the scraps that I had of the pattern paper and die cut some different shapes. I had found a bird die Hobby Lobby somewhere after Christmas on clearance, and so I was wanting to play with that. So you see a lot of birds, and there was some hearts in there, and then I also did flowers and some like leaves. I just tried to find things that I thought might fit with a gratitude journal, things that were not any type of theme specific, and that would go with some of the floral patterns that were in this pack. So you'll see a lot of birds. I'm really into the birds with this project. I was having fun with them. So I'm just going through and trying to add some fun elements to each page. So this is going to be a pocket, and I believe I trimmed that bottom plaid piece to the multicolored plaid piece to about 4 by 6, and then that blue plaid was 4 inches wide, and then I just trimmed it at a diagonal just so it would make a fun pocket. And then I'm just going to decorate that up. And I'm doing one journal with you, and then I did the other one off camera. And so I've already done the other one, so all of my pieces are pre-cut because I just went ahead and cut both at the same time. So you don't necessarily have to watch me cut. You can just watch me assemble. And so I've kind of been through this once, but this one ends up being slightly different just because I didn't have identical pieces for both journals. Like the die cuts are different, and then some of the patterns I use are different. So I decided to dress up that white page with this pocket and then a little border at the bottom. And then I do a bunch of these corner pockets where you just take kind of like a journal. A lot of times I just use a journal card size piece and round one corner and then just add glue to the outside and bottom corners, and then you have a little corner pocket and you can tuck stuff behind it. I don't know that I'm going to talk through all of this because a lot of times I repeat my steps, but maybe just in a different part of the journal. So I may intersperse some music here, but if I do something different or whenever I make my different pockets, I will jump in and talk about those. But when I'm going through, I try not to have too much of the same element like back to back on the pages. Sometimes I can't avoid it just because of the scraps I have left or I have to move things around, but I do try to mix it up. And whenever I folded the sides in on some of those pages, some of them I turned into pockets, and some of them I just glued down, some of them I left as a flap. So here I am working with that sample envelope, and I'm going to turn it into a pocket on a page as well. So I am just going to cover it since it has the words on there. I could have turned it around, but I didn't want the envelope flap part to be the top side. So I'm just going to cover it with that scrap of paper, and I'm just trying to line up to get the correct angle so that when I trim it to be like it's smaller than I want it smaller than the envelope so that there's a border around that blue, but I was just trying to line it up so I get the correct angle. And then we'll just add a little bit of decoration to that before I glue it down. But I think I will go ahead and turn it over to some music now and then jump in here and there whenever I do some of my pocket elements. But hopefully you guys enjoy watching me decorate and maybe get some ideas for yourself as well. On this particular page, I just decided to do kind of a normal pocket in the center of the bottom of the page, and so I just took that scrap and added glue to the sides and the bottom, and then I can tuck, like a tag or something into the top of it. The page before that was one of those white pages. I do try to leave a lot of the white pages with a lot of white space that can be used for journaling, but I do like to decorate it up and add some color to them as well. Here I'm just trying to decorate up my pocket a little bit, making use of the different flowers I have and some of the other smaller scraps. On the other side, I'm going to make a horizontal pocket. So these are just, well, one of them is just a strip. The other one was a larger piece. I just made sure that the strip was the same width as the larger piece, and then I'm just gluing the strip down on the bottom and the sides, and so then that creates my pocket. Technically, you could leave the outside side of that blue plaid open as well and have a double pocket. I just didn't think about it in this case. Here, I was trying to do a cool tag element, and I do end up doing it, but my intent was to have it attached to the left side of the page there, but once I turned the top tag over and added my hinge piece, I realized I put the hinge on the wrong side, and so now I would have to attach it to the right side of a page somewhere so that it would open out. So right there, I'm just like, oh man. So we'll save that and come back and add it in a different spot. So here I ended up adding another pocket, which it's kind of on the other half of the journal from the pocket I just did, but still, like, I wouldn't have normally done a pocket there, but I had to switch up some pages, so. This page just used that little corner piece that I made that I had left from the one tag where I cut the blue plaid at an angle at the beginning of the journal. Decided to make a little corner pocket out of it, just a place you can tuck some small things. This is kind of like a lift the flap element. I used another strip as a hinge. This time I'm going to leave some of that strip showing. And this is a fun way to decorate up the white pages, but still leave plenty of room to use up the actual clear white space. I finally found a space where I can use that tag element. I had seen this, I don't remember if it was on Pinterest or a video a while back, and I've been waiting to be able to use it, so glad to finally be able to put that idea to use. But I just created some tags out of, I think they're 2.5 by 3.5 inch pieces, and then did the We Are Memory Keepers corner chomp, the angled one, and then just kind of layering them up so that they're stair-stepped, aren't any wider than the page, like they're in the center, and that they're not going to be too long for the page. And that's kind of a nice, again, those two flap items are a nice way to decorate up those white pages but still have a lot of that usable white space. Going back to the corner pockets here, this is kind of one of my go-to journal elements just because it's really easy and it's a great way to use up some of those smaller, I guess mid-size journal card size scraps. This is another fun little element, and I believe I've done a video on this in the past. If I find it, I'll link it down below. But basically, my piece is a 4x8 piece, and then I just folded the sides in towards the middle so that they meet in the middle. And then I forgot that I wanted to glue the bottom down so that that would be a pocket. And then I accidentally added glue to all 4 sides of my strip there, but I had wanted to leave the top open for that front strip to be a pocket as well. So it's a double pocket. And this is really cool if you have double-sided paper, because when you fold those flaps back, you get to see like the different patterns there. But I'm just folding those flaps back, and I'm going to go ahead and glue mine down. You don't have to. I just like to so that they'll stay flat. And then I'm just looking for some elements that will fit in there. I'm going to round the top corners of that blue piece and then add the angles to that tan plaid and make it into a tag as well. Just glue that to my page and decide that the top of the page needs something too. So I'm just going to add some scraps in at the top as some little banner flags. This is the last page of my journal, and so just finishing up decorating it. And now I'm going to go through all of the scraps that I have left along with the journal cards and just all the other items that I had pulled out to tuck into things, looking for a piece that'll fit in that first pocket that I made and trying to find one. Was hoping I had one that was the right width, and I ended up finding it later. But this works, that's fine. My space wasn't even that messy. I think it was just outside of my little view area there, and I just totally missed it. And I apologize, I'm slightly off the top of the screen with my actual journal, but you can kind of see that I'm tucking things in here and there. If there's anything I've done that I haven't talked about or didn't explain well enough that you guys have questions on, let me know. Like I said, I'm not a journal expert. This is just kind of what works for me. Now my pages are all decorated, so I get to actually put the journal together. This here, I'm just trying to make sure all the pages are like up against each other, like are kind of tight together, that the folds are all in the right place, because sometimes they slide around whenever I'm working with them. So just trying to make sure that it's a good, nice, tight, solid booklet. And then I'm going to take some clothespins that I have to hold those together. You can use binder clips or just other clips. Clothespins are what I had, and I like the fact that they have a good reach as far as the clip part. This is just a little template I've made myself for my standard, the size journals that I tend to make, that helps me know where to punch my holes. This is a little journal making kit that I got off Amazon. It's just a basic one. Comes with the awl, some needles, the wax thread, some scissors, and then a thimble. And again, I'm sure there's different ways, better ways to do this. This is just how I do it. I like to kind of fold my booklet there together so that the holes are coming through, making sure the holes are going through the creased part of the booklet. And some people do their cover and their booklet or signature together, like punch the holes together. I like to do them separate just because sometimes it slides around on me, and so it's just easier for me to do them separate. So I've picked one of the bigger needles and threaded that with my wax thread. And this is this is my least favorite part about making the journals, is having to sew it together, because this still intimidates me. And then doing it on camera, I was extra nervous. So you see me fiddle. Probably they're just because I'm nervous, and I don't know. Yeah. That's why I don't tend to do this on camera very often. So enjoy it while you can. I just do kind of like the basic journal stitching there. I go through the middle and come back through the top end, and then down to the bottom and back through the middle, so that both of the ends of my thread are there together, and I can tie them off. And I do make sure that everything, the cover and the signature, is flush against each other so that they're not pulling away or that there's too much space. This page in the middle of the journal, I'm going to turn into a pocket. And so I'm gluing it together now that I've tied it off. You don't have to make it a pocket. I know some people don't. Now I'm going to add the closure. I like to use this colored elastic. I just slide it through the thread on the spine and then tie it off on the outside, and then slide the knot back towards the spine, and that is it. All right, I finally finished my journals. So just quick flip through. You guys pretty much saw the whole process. I do have some bits and pieces left here that I didn't use on the journals, and I may just go ahead and include them in a little packet of like additional items they can tuck in here. I might also either do some stamping or create some stamped sentiments or words that have to do with, gratitude or thankfulness or kind of life, inspirational things like that. I may either stamp them in here. I like to stamp on the vellum because you can see the stamp, and then with the vellum, then you can see through to the pattern behind it. So it usually looks pretty cool. So I'll either do that, or I may just, like I said, include some already trimmed down stamped words that they can include with some of the additional embellishments that I have left. And there are I have a few scraps here from what I specifically used in the journals, and there's some other scraps left with the pad. So I may do some additional die cuts or punches, we'll see. But for now, I finally finished the journals, and this was the last project I was doing with that pad. So the pad is done. So you can stay tuned for a very belated fall pad wrap up. But at least I finally got the whole thing finished, and I can get all that put away and get everything wrapped up. So hope you guys enjoyed watching me make these journals. Maybe you even pulled out some paper and made one along with me. Thank you so much for your time, and hope you all have a very crafty day.